In this tutorial, we'll build an authentication system using Next.js. So this is the app that we will build. This is the main page where it shows you are not logged in. We can log in and we can register. So let's try to register our user. So I will create this user. The password is test, submit, and we are redirected to the login. This means that the registration works. Now I can use the user that I just created and put the password, click sign in, and here instead of you are not logged in, we can see hi test. So test is the name of the user that we logged in. Now login and register are not shown. It is shown on the logout button. When we click it, we will redirect again and it shows you are not logged in. So this is the app that we will build. Before we start building the app, I would like to remind you that this video is meant to be combined with other videos. So if you want to use Next.js with Laravel, Django, Node.js, Go, Nest.js or Deno, I provided some links in the description. In case you don't want to build a backend, don't worry, I have a solution for you. Also, make sure to check scalablescripts.com. Now I will show you how to build a backend without actually building it. So, if you already built the backend, you can skip this part. If you don't want to build it, then first, before I explain this repository, download Docker. So go to docker.com products Docker desktop and download the right version for your machine. I already did it and I have here an icon on top. So in order to build a backend, you have to install Docker. Now this repository is just a simple docker compose.yaml file. You can copy this file, you can download the code, you can do anything. In my case, I will just copy the code and I will do a git clone. So I will open my terminal and I will write git clone this repository. So now that is downloaded, let's go to the folder Auth API is called, and you have Docker installed. Run docker compose app. And now Docker will pull all the images and download all the files and it will build the backend for you. Now let's wait till it's completed. Now it's completed. So we are almost finished. Now I will type Control C, Command C to close the containers. And we need one last command. So first, I will do a docker compose app, but -d, so we don't want to see the logs here. So with this command, now we don't see anything. So we can clear it. It doesn't show anything. And let's run this last command. This will build the database. So everything is built. Now we can access localhost port 8000, and this is our backend running on port 8000. Now we will consume this API by building our app. Now let's start creating our Next.js app. So click documentation and we need to create the project using this command. So I have an empty project here. I'll open the terminal and run npx create next app, and I will put a dot here, which means I will create it in this folder. Now let's wait till it's completed. So everything is created. Now I will convert this project to TypeScript since it is a JavaScript project. So to convert it to TypeScript, I will create a file tsconfig.json. So I will add this file and we will keep it empty for now. So the file is empty. Now run npm run dev. So we got an error, and if we scroll up, we can see that we need to install this. We have a suggestion to install some packages. So I will copy this, paste it, and the packages are installed. Now that we install the packages, I'll go to the pages. I'll remove the API folder because we don't need it, and I will convert this index.js file. I will refactor, rename it to index.tsx. So I'll convert it to a TypeScript file. So I'll do the same for this app.js. I'll convert it to app.tsx. Now let's run again npm run dev, and this time it will run successfully, and it will populate this tsconfig file. So before it was empty, now it will pre-fill it for us. Also, these files won't complain anymore, and we can go to localhost port 3000, and we can see this is our Next.js app. So we successfully installed it, and we successfully are using TypeScript. Now let's go to getbootstrap.com, and we want to use Bootstrap in this app. So the first thing, we want to add the link for the Bootstrap. So how do we do it? So we need to import here on the header. So we already have the head. So this head here, we can add the Bootstrap link that we want. So I'll paste it here, and I will just remove this upper div. Also, I will remove it here. And now it is complaining because Bootstrap needs to add a slash here in the end. And now we added Bootstrap, and we want to change this other HTML now. So go to examples, and we will use the sign-in example. View page source and copy this form. And now this main. So do we have the main? Yes. So I'll paste it here. So I'll remove the footer, and I will paste it here. I'll remove this div here. I'll remove this this image. I'll remove all the labels, and don't forget to close the inputs. And my IDE automatically changes classes to class name. So if you are having an error, make sure to change class to class name. I will remove also these IDs and the autofocus. So I want to keep everything really simple. So here only email. And I will remove the ID here, and that's it. So this is our form. Let's see what it looks like. So it looks like this. So it's not looking very good because we need to add some more styles. Here in the example, go to sign in CSS, and let's copy these styles. Now go to styles, global CSS, and I will replace it with the CSS that we just copied. And now it will look like this. So to make it look better, remove the HTML and the body here. So just keep the form sign in, and now it looks better. So we got the form. This home module.css, I will remove it because we don't need it, and this will be our home component. Now we need to add more pages. So to add new pages in Next.js is really simple. I'll create two new pages. One is login, and I will create that .tsx file, and I'll create a React component here, and I'll just name it to login for the moment. And I will create another page, register. This is also a tsx file, and register is created also. So now that we created these two components, how do we map them to the Next.js app? Is really simple. They are based on the name, and now the index is the main page, and the login will be localhost port 3000/login. And as we can see login here. So this is successful. Also, register, it is the same. Now let's add the template also for these two other components, because we added the template only for the index. So to do it, I will create a new directory here, layouts, and inside I will create a layout component, and this will be a normal component. I'll copy the code here and I will paste it here. So the difference is that we don't want this form, so this will be on the pages here, and to render the pages here we have to pass it via the props here. So we have to get the children of the props like this, and here we want to use them, so children. This way we can use this component to these other components like this. So I will remove all this code here, and now I will use the layout, and inside I will just write home. And if we go to the home component, we can see home here. Now let's add the forms to the login. So I'll convert this div to layout, and I will replace the login with the form that I just cut. So this is the form, and the login now will look like this login. So it looks like before, and the same we will add the layout for the register also. So the register will look like this. Now we are not finished yet with the template, since we want to add a navbar static for we want to add a navigation, because we don't want to type manually the URL, we want a navigation to move to the pages. So this is a navigation that I want to add. Click view page source and copy this navigation, and I will add it to the layout. So I will add the navigation here. Now that we added the navigation, let's make some changes. Remove this form here. This needs to be home. I will remove this button. I will remove these classes, so I will keep only a div here, and I'll keep only a link here, which is login, and I will copy it, paste it again, and this will be register. So let's see how it looks like. So it looks like this. Now let's make it work. So we want to click to these links, which currently they are not working, and we want to navigate to the other pages. So let's do it now. So to navigate to other pages, first let's add an import. So we need to import here link from next link. So now let's use this link. We need to remove the href for every link, and we want to wrap it with the link component. So link and let's wrap this, and the href here needs to go to the main page. So like this we can redirect in Next.js. So I will wrap this also, and this will go to login. The same for the register here. So like this now I saved, and now let's go to home. We can see home here, we can go to the login, and we can go to the register. Now let's make the register work. First let's add the form. So I'll copy the form from the login, I'll paste it here, and now we need one more field here. So first I'll name this register, and the other field is a type text, so I'll remove it, and this is the name. So we need the name, we need an email, we need the password, and this is submit here. And now let's submit this form. To submit this form, first we have to store the values of these inputs. So let's create 3 variables using the state. So we'll create the name, and we need the set name, which is equal to use state, and the default value will be an empty string. So I'm sure you are familiar how use state works. Basically the first parameter is a variable, and the second parameter is a function that sets this variable. Once we set the variable, the HTML will re-render. So this is in short use state. Let's add the use state for the email and set email, and password, set password. And now we want to set these values. To set the values, we have to add here on change, and we want to set the name to event.target.value, like this. Now I'll copy this, paste it to the other inputs. This is set email, and this is set password. Now we already set all the values. What is left is to create the submit function, and this submit function we need to call it here on submit. So we want to pass here an event, which is a synthetic event. This is important because once we submit the form, the page will refresh, and to prevent that we have to use event.prevent_default. So this is important every time we submit forms in Next.js. Now let's send the request to the server. First I will make the function asynchronous, and here I will call await fetch. The endpoint is HTTP localhost port 8000, my ID already helps me, /API/register. So we need to add some more parameters. The first one is a method, which is a post request. The second one is headers, which we need to make content type application JSON. And the last parameter is the values that we want to send. So we want to send the name, email, and the password. So we want to send the body, and this accepts a string. So we want to send an object like this with the name, etc. But since body accepts a string, we have to use JSON stringify, and we will pass the values. So the values will be name as this name, like this, but since they are the same name as a value and the key name here, we can use it like this. So name, email, and the password. So this is our request. Once we finish, we want to redirect to login. So to redirect in Next.js, first we have to use the router. So we'll get a variable here, router, which is equal to use router. Don't forget also to import use router here. And after we finish this request, we will await router push to login. And that's it. Now let's see if this form works. Let's create a user. So a8a.com, submit. And as we can see, we redirected to login. So the request worked and we successfully redirected. So this was our register page. Now let's go to the login page. So here everything will be the same. So for the email and the password, I'll copy these two lines here, use it here, and we want to also set the values once we change the property. So I'll copy this also, and once we change here, we will set the email, and here we will set the password. Set password. And that's it for the login. Now we need to add the submit. Submit. And once we submit here on submit, submit. This function will get the synthetic event, and we need to prevent default. Now we want to send again a request here also, like we did with the register. So I will send it directly. So let's make this function an asynchronous function, and we will await here fetch. The endpoint is HTTP localhost port 8000 API/login. The extra parameters are the method, which is a post request, the headers, which is I'll copy it from the register here. So I'll copy everything here and I'll paste it here. We don't have the name here, so the values that we want to send are the email and the password. So everything here is correct except for one thing. Since we want to log in, the backend will send us a cookie. So we want to store this cookie in the front end, and the only way to do it, so this way we will get the cookie but the front end won't store it. So to store it, we have to add here credentials include. This way, once we log in, we will get a cookie and we will store it in the browser. So let's see it. I will inspect and let's go to application. We can see here we don't have any cookies. And now let's try to log in with our user. And as we can see, we got a JWT cookie. So this cookie will be used to get our authenticated user. So This means that we successfully log in, but we need also to redirect. So let's get the router here also. Use a router. And once we log in, we will await router push to the main page. So now if we log in again, we'll go to the home page. Now in the home page, we want to get our authenticated user. So we have to call the backend, and to call the backend, we have to use effect here. So I'll remove this import. Use effect. And this will call a function. We cannot make this function asynchronous. Instead, we can do this. So I'll open two brackets, and inside the first one, I'll create an asynchronous function. And here inside, I will call await fetch HTTP localhost port 8000/API/user. And we want to get the response here. And the content of this response is equal to await response JSON. And for the moment, let's console log the content. So let's see it here on the browser. We can see that the user is not working, and we are not retrieving the user because we want to send the credentials here also, like we did with the login. With these credentials include, we need to add it here also. So like this. Now let's get the user. As we can see, we console log here and we got the user here. So that's why we need these credentials. We will get cookies from the backend and we will send it back. That is the only functionality of the HttpOnly cookies. Now let's display a message here. So let's create a variable, message, set message, and the default message. So this is equal to use state, and the default message is you are not logged in. Or I will keep the default message to empty here, and I will show the message here, message. Now if we get the right content here, the message will be, we'll set the message, hi, I'll do it like this, content name, since the content is the user, so we will return the user, and the message will be hi name. As we can see now, hi A is the name of the user. What happens when we don't get the right response? So we should wrap this with a try catch, and once we got an error here, we'll set the message to you are not logged in. So we can see that we cannot see that message now because we need to log out. So before adding the logout function, we need to remove this login and register and to replace it with a logout button. So to do that, we have to send something to this layout that the user is authenticated. So the only place that we know that the user is authenticated or not is the home, and here we will create another variable. I'll call it auth and set auth, which is equal to use state false. By default, the user is not authenticated. And when we set this message here, we can also set the authentication to true. The same thing, when we are not authenticated, we'll set the authentication to false. And this authentication variable, we want to pass it here to the layout. So to do that, we have to go to the layout, and here we want to add auth. But I want to keep this variable optional because here it will work fine, but it will require here on the other components also. So to keep the variable optional, I will use props here, just like this. And for the children here, I will use props.children. And in the index here, it won't change anything, and here, so no error will throw. And the variable auth, we can access it like this. So if props.auth is set. Now let's create a variable. I'll call it menu. And this variable will be equal to this if we are not authenticated. So if we are not authenticated, menu will be equal to this HTML. Else, we want to show the logout button. So the menu is equal to this again, but I will remove this, and I'll remove the link here. This will be just an anchor link with a logout here. And in the end, we'll show the menu here. So as we can see, we have a logout button here. So we cannot click it. So I will add here an href like this. And now we have the pointer as a hand. Now let's add an on-click here to log out. Let's create the function. So where do I create it? So I'll create it here, or I'll create it on top. So logout is equal to a function. And once we click, we want to log out. And the logout will be just a fetch like the other requests. So await fetch. We will send the request to HTTP port 8000 slash API slash logout. And the extra inputs that we need. So we need to send the method, the headers, and the credentials. So we should do it like this. And we don't want to send extra data. And once we successfully log out, we want to redirect to the login page. So let's get the router here, which is equal to use router. After this, we will await to router push to login. So let's see it. Click logout, and we are redirected to the login. If we go to the login, we can see we are not logged in. So we need to log in again to see our user. So this was the authentication using Next.js. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you did, please share it and subscribe. Thank you.